in the newspaper. He had this club quarantine. So he's a DJ and decided he was going to DJ some records just for his friends on Instagram Live. And it ended up attracting 200,000 people, including a lot of celebrities such as Michelle Obama, Rihanna, and others. And, you know, and just how, so everybody can partake in that. And so you didn't need a special invite, and you could be there. And just one more thing that came across my my screen the other day, there's a virtual radio Taiso class. I think it's Japanese, some kind of Japanese stretching. A friend of mine had sent that across. And again, there's just a number of opportunities. And I think a way to think about this, one time for our football players, we had a social media consultant come in, and she shared to the kids, like, you know, regardless of what you think you are on social media, you are what you post. And so that's all people see of you. And so that's, you know, when you distill it, that is who you are. And I think a way to think about this now is, you know, we're at home and how are we spending whatever time we have. To some degree, you are what you consume. And so whether, you know, I don't think there's a right answer per se, but, you know, whether you're consuming Broadway or you know, club quarantine or the Supreme Court, you really have an opportunity to break in a very short amount of time. So I think for practical matters, for our high schoolers in the crowd here, I think, you know, one of the questions is, well, you know, the colleges and universities, they like to look at extracurricular activities, and how do I do that, especially given this time and the uncertainty going into the summer and next fall. I think there are still ways to be involved as well. Okay, and a number of these things, there are things that either have come across my desk or my computer screen actually, or that API Vote Michigan, the organization that I'm working with, have partaken in. And so too big, you know, a lot of this is political because that's, again, my area of interest. But 2020 is a huge year for getting out the census count and making sure we have an active or an accurate census count, particularly here for Michigan. They help determine federal dollars and political representation that way. But there are a number of organizations involved with that. In 2020, obviously in November, we have the election. So not only the presidential election, but a number of a Senate seat here in Michigan, all the House seats, and a lot of local elections. And so I've seen campaigns already, you know, looking for volunteers and hosting virtual, you know, meet and greets on Zoom and things like that. You can get involved in those ways. In fact, if anything, it's easier, and to some degree, I have students that are helping us with like phone banking and text banking for the census. And so it's all done from their home. You know, we share the list. You know, they sign onto a program and they get the numbers to call. They get the script to read, and they're active as, you know, as if they're in school. And so what I'm suggesting is there's a number of ways to get plugged in. I think you just have to. Okay. So, you know, I look forward to any questions you might have. And again, thank you, CAPA, and thank you, Dr. Sue, for having me on today.
Thank you, Mr. Richard. Our next panelist is an associate professor from Michigan State University. Dr. Maddie will share with us an overview of college planning and what are the advantages and support available. Welcome, Dr. Maddie.
Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here with you all this evening. I'm going to turn my camera on and see if that works. And if it slows us down, I'll turn it off, but for now it's on. So it's really nice to be here with all of you, and thanks to Dr. Sue for the invitation to join, and to CAPA for the warm welcome. So I'm here to bring a college professor's perspective to you guys. So a lot of you will be transitioning to higher ed this coming fall or in coming years. And so I'm here to sort of represent that perspective a little bit on the panel. So I think one of the things that's just really important for us to talk just briefly about is just this question, to go or not to go, because I think, you know, it's an open question for many families right now, whether college in the fall is a good idea. That may be because of questions about whether starting as a freshman in an online environment is a good idea, or it may be concerns about the pandemic, whether students should be going to live in college dorms during this situation. So there are a number of concerns that people are sort of wrestling with right now. I think one of the things that is just worth mentioning too is that for folks, especially who are high school seniors this year, I think it's really tough to lose a sense of community and to be scattered to the wind without celebration and closure on your K through 12 experience this year. And, you know, that sort of shocking end, even with the accommodations that so many schools have made to try to celebrate seniors, I'm sure has been very unsettling. And it seems like sort of an odd transition then to jump into college. And so I think one of the ways to think a little bit about this is that this fall and college this fall may really be an opportunity to create a new sense of community and build new connections if you choose to go ahead and start college. I personally am encouraging students who I have in my social circles to go ahead and continue with their college plans because I just have concerns about students delaying starting college because I just think it puts them behind. But at the same time, families are in different financial situations and are going to have to make this decision on their own. So one thing to think a little bit about that might help you and your family make this decision is just what is college going to look like this fall? And so, you know, we could talk this in a lot of different ways. And I think the timing of our session today is perfect because I actually got an email hot off the presses this afternoon from MSU's college president talking about what fall is going to look like at Michigan State. So I actually have more concrete information now than I did 24 hours ago even. So a couple of things. I think when you head to college this fall, if those are your plans, we're going to be looking at masks, and more masks, and a lot of physical distancing being part of how we behave. I think this is all second nature to a lot of us at this point, just because we've built these habits already. Another thing, obviously, is that classes are going to be happening. But it may be the case that classes move to a more hybrid approach, meaning some of the classes meet face-to-face and some of them are online, or you may have classes that are moved to completely online formats. One of the things that we have talked quite a bit about at Michigan State is shifting schedules. So, for example, one of the things that the email included today from our president, we are actually going to be welcoming students back face-to-face this fall, and we are going to be ending our semester of face-to-face time right before Thanksgiving. And then the idea is that students can return home at Thanksgiving, and then the last few classes and final exams will actually be administered online. And the reason for that is because of what we have heard in terms of the potential for another bump in the coronavirus and COVID-19 at that point in time in December and over the winter. So we are shifting our calendar to accommodate for that a little bit. And one of the other things we're talking a lot about doing is literally changing the times that classes begin and when they end, so that they are staggered, so that when students get out of class, they are not all released into the hallway at the same time. Or at Michigan State, a lot of our students take buses around campus to get from class to class because our campus is really big. And so there are times when the buses are packed as students are trying to get from class to class because the classes typically start around the same time. And so we're talking about literally staggering face-to-face classes so that we are helping people with physical distancing. One other thing that people have asked me is, well, what about sports and extracurriculars? A big part of college has to do with not just class, but all these other fun activities that you get to participate in. So I think these things are going to happen, but they're going to be in modified formats. And those formats are going to take into account health and safety needs given the pandemic. So for example, it may be the case that college athletics have a reduced number of spectators, or that student athletes actually play their sports without any fans present. So I don't know if folks have been following some of the European leagues that have already, the pro leagues that have already picked back up again, or in Japan, same thing. I actually read an article today that I thought was absolutely fascinating about a new app that has been developed in Japan that is allowing fans to cheer or heckle sports teams remotely. And then what they are saying and typing is being broadcast into the stadium through loudspeakers. So there's an actual way for fans to participate even though they are not in the stadium, which I think is really innovative and really interesting. So who knows, we may even see those kinds of things happening with college athletics as well. I also wanted just to take a minute to talk through some of the supports and resources that colleges are putting in place, just given this crazy situation we find ourselves in. One of the things that I know a couple of the other panelists will talk a little bit more about is mental health and counseling and support services for students. So at Michigan State, we have a strong set of services that are in place. This includes individual counseling and supports as well as group counseling. And those interactions and services are continuing in online formats for both people who had previously been being seen by counselors and had appointments, but also people who felt like they needed to start with counseling during this pandemic. At Michigan State, we actually even have remote fitness opportunities. So students are participating in physical fitness activities through Zoom, typically, is the platform that we use, but other institutions use other video conference platforms. All of our students at Michigan State have a ton of technology at their disposal. So for example, every one of our students has a Zoom account, as well as many other forms of technology that they can use to connect with one another and their professors. We literally provide round-the-clock tech support, and when I say round the clock, I mean 24/7. I have called tech support during this pandemic at 3 o'clock in the morning when I'm a night owl and I work really late. And I have called them and they have picked up and they have helped me work through some of the issues that I have faced while trying to pull materials together for one of the classes that I was teaching that transitioned into an online format. Instructors and advisors are continuing to meet with students online. We hold office hours, we set up meetings in virtual settings. So these interactions are continuing to happen. Our librarians are also set up to serve students and faculty online, and they've actually had really great systems in place on that front for a long time. A lot of institutions, Michigan State is one of them, but many colleges have been set up to service students who are distance learners for a long time. So we in some ways have been at an advantage over our K-12 schools, just simply because a lot of our students are distance learners in some way, shape, or form. And so we have had a lot of these systems in place. We had a little bit of a leg up just because of how we serve students from across the state and across the world for that matter. I think one of the other things that's just worth mentioning is that professors can often be pretty intimidating folks, right? And I think one of the things to remember is that through all of this, we are learning alongside all of you. So we're doing things like taking classes this summer. Faculty are taking classes to improve our online pedagogy. And so these are the kinds of things that our institutions are doing to help us be better professors for students that we are welcoming in the fall. And then finally, I just wanted to wrap up with this idea that I really do think that college during the pandemic can bring challenges, but it's also an opportunity to be a really big part of something that's, I think, incredibly special. So ending high school in the way that seniors are ending high school right now and starting college during a pandemic makes the high school class of 2020 incredibly unique. And in some ways, I really think that this is a recipe for some wonderful things to happen. I think Richard talked about some of these ideas continuing to participate in different ways. And my hypothesis is that the challenges and adversity that you will face, whether you're a high school student or starting college this fall, my sense is that the challenges and adversity that you're going to face are going to ultimately make you stronger and make you more innovative, particularly if you can couple and channel this with a deep sense of caring and support for one another. So I encourage all of you to dream big and to challenge one another to innovate in order to think around and over the problems and obstacles that you encounter. I think you guys are really well positioned to take this on, and reach out to the supports that you need around you as well. We're here to support you, especially as you start college. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dr. Maddie. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to our third panelist, who is a college student herself, and she'll be sharing her own experience and perspective. So Pamela is going to talk about how college students can be innovative during this time. So Ms. Pamela, go ahead, you're on.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Sue, and thank you, CAPA, for having me. So during the pandemic for our generation, it's not really hard to stay connected, but there are times where the internet can't really make up for in-person interaction. I know that we have things such as Zoom, FaceTime, Animal Crossing, Instagram Live, Snapchat, Netflix Party, and Facebook and whatnot. And we've all found a way to stay connected through the internet, but there are some ways that students, especially college students, have found to stay connected to one another and to support their local businesses. I've seen some students go outside to local restaurants. They drive up, pick up their food, and they find a space where they can all go park their cars, roll down their windows, and just hang out. And for those of you who haven't drive yet, I know there are some freshmen out there. Just most of them just hang out in their driveway. Same difference. And so you're all probably wondering what college is like during the pandemic. I remember that I was in my biology lab, not knowing that it was going to be my last in-person class of the school year. After my lab, my friends and I all went out to a local restaurant to support EMU's pre-med club, and that was when we got the email saying that school has been canceled due to COVID-19, and most schools around our area had been too, and it was all over the news. So from that point on, class did not start until the next following week. So classes due to EMU closing were not as different since since EMU had been using an online platform for learning, and some professors had decided to use that already. It's through Canvas, which most universities do use, and most lectures were now going through Zoom or through a platform called the Big Blue Button, which was really helpful because you could record the meetings and go back, or if you forgot to attend, you can always go back by it. And most professors that I had already implemented a flipped classroom. So they already had their video set up, and all they had to do was make the exams and quizzes onto the platform. But there are some classes, such as labs and art classes, that have to be in person. And for that, professors had decided for biology labs, students would mainly focus on writing papers on a specific subject and take quizzes over textbook materials. As for chemistry labs, it would be more like chemistry quizzes based on the topic that you were learning, so an extension of your chem lecture. And as for art, I'm not really sure what they decided to do for hands-on classes such as ceramics and jewelry making, but I know that for graphic design, which I was taking at the time, all they did was they made the program of Adobe Cloud free to all students for that semester to use at home, and professors understood that some students didn't have access to some of the computers and whatnot, so they did account for that, and they had different assignments for students who did not have access to the internet or a computer. And as for a way to stay connected in college, most universities have different platforms, such as Instagram. I know that it's free for everyone online, obviously. It does not matter whether you're a student or just someone just going on and following. I know they have Instagram live stories, trivia, Netflix parties for students to join and interact and meet everyone. And most of the time, colleges will try to introduce you to these during orientation when you get your student IDs. And I know that EMU is just like Michigan State. They're trying to do in-person classes in the fall. So they do have incoming freshmen sign up for orientation. I would make sure the college that you're attending, you know whether or not they have in-person orientation this upcoming fall. If you don't know what to do after you've decided on a school, I would recommend going to the website and emailing an advisor for help. And so now that we've covered what college looks like during the pandemic and ways to stay connected, and some of you might be very career driven and know exactly what you want to do and want to know ways to get ahead while amidst the pandemic, such as research opportunities. Some universities and professors are hoping to have their labs open by fall. And the best way to reserve a spot is to first find out what kind of research you're interested in. And to do this, it's really simple. You go onto the school's website, go to faculty, and normally you'll find the professors and what their ongoing research is. You can look up their names, and normally there's a summary next to their credentials of their research. And then from there, you would just email them personally. And even if you can't get into lab now, they'll try and open later, perhaps. So thank you for having me. And if you have any more questions, I'll answer that later.
Thank you, Panita. Pamite, we call her Pamite, that's her nickname. Real name is Panita. So thank you again. So our final two panelists will bring to us a very important piece. I call it the final piece to making sense of the COVID-19 time, mental health impact. So Ms. Renee and Ms. Terry will be sharing information with us. So thank you for being here, and we look forward to hearing what information you can share with us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Renee Ragona, and I'm the Behavior Specialist Consultant at the Macomb Intermediate School District. I'm a psychologist by training. I'm going to first speak to what this is all about and how balance is so important, and that balance is having reasonable expectations and goals. The first major hurdle that this class of 2020 has proved to the world is that you have survived senior year under great odds. You've shown the resilience and flexibility, two of the most important characteristics, and overcome a pandemic of global proportion and successfully finished your senior year. You know, if that isn't something to celebrate and to build on, and to take those traits and realize and tuck them in your back pocket and say, wow, I overcame something pretty big with the help of your families and your teachers and your mentors. That's a pretty good springboard to send you off to college with. I enjoyed hearing from each of the previous presenters because each one of those individuals brought to the table and used some key words that meant so much to me as a mental health person. And they all highlighted every bit of importance of what we're really talking about here today. Really the opportunities to be part of something bigger, the importance of staying connected. All of these pieces are really what you're on the brink of doing as you step into the college community. I want to start by talking about stress versus anxiety. And it's a misnomer often. People don't really understand that stress and anxiety are two different things. So I'm going to start by just clarifying those. Stress comes from an external cause, where anxiety has an internal origin. So when we talk about an external cause of stress, we can put a picture next to it, and it's called COVID-19. I picture that green picture that we use so often as a emoji or an icon, and it represents stress in our lives since it hit the scene in the winter. What an external stressor does is it diminishes after that concern goes away. So once that problem subsides or resolves, that stress should go down in us. where anxiety has an internal origin. It comes from within, and it's a persistent feeling, and it's apprehension or dread. And it happens in a non-threatening situation. So you don't need that green blob or that green representation. There's nothing that really represents. It's a non-threatening situation, but we feel that apprehension, that anxiety. When we talk about stress, once that external concern goes away, our stress goes down. That is very meaningful because stress in itself is something to really get to understand and know, because stress doesn't have to always be distress. It doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Being an adult and reaching out into the adult world, understanding the role of stress can be really empowering, and it's empowering to your mental health. So to understand stress, we're going to push anxiety to the side now, because anxiety is from an internal place. And I just want to speak to the stress piece of it, and understanding and getting to know how stress, whether it's distress, which is that negative feeling, or a different kind of stress, which we call it is eustress. E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S, eustress. And it's actually good stress. It has positive effects. It's the stuff that makes us intrigued and excited and eager, and it pushes us to new heights, and it encourages us to do great things. So here we are. We're talking about college. We're talking about college facing, COVID-19 square in the eye. You guys are really you're tough cookies, and you're going to be dealing with worried parents and family members saying, you're either going away or you're starting a community college amongst all these new rules and regulations. So you're trailblazers. But yet this eustress is going to cause a sense of excitement in you to use your brain. Use that healthy part, that brain, that learning part of you to say, I can take realistic risks by using my brain, all that knowledge, and I can take all those good recommendations from all those mental giants out there, and I'm going to stand on the shoulders of mental giants, and I'm going to use my brain and all of my knowledge, and I'm going to make good decisions for myself, and I'm going to be the best that I can be in the time that I was meant to be a college student. And that's really what good mental health is. We talk a little bit about the Holmes-Ray stress inventory. I've always loved this as a psychologist. When we speak to it, I'm going to give you a little background. It's 43 questions. We give it to lots of different people of different ages. And in these 43 questions, they're rated on different levels of stress. So one could be 20 points, one could be 100. I'll give you an example. The death of a spouse for an individual is the most highly loaded question. If you experience as an adult the death of a spouse, it's 100 points. It's the mean value of 100 points, one of the most stressful experiences a person can have. That would be distress. But yet a vacation, which is eustress, it's excitement, is still stressful to the body, still stressful to the mind. It's 13 points. A major holiday, 11 points. So you can see that psychologists have rated these different experiences, there's 43 of them, different levels of stress. I'm going to read some that apply to all of you because you're about to be college students, whether you stay home, some apply, or whether you go away. Beginning or ceasing formal schooling, you get 26 points for that. You're just finished your formal education as a high school. As a high schooler, you spent, some of you, kindergarten through 12th grade with some of these individuals. That's a big life change, 26 points. And you're about to begin a new formal school setting. A change in residence, 20 points. Some of you are going to be moving out of the house and changing residence for the first time. That's a big one, 20 points. Changing a new school, you get another 20 points for that. A major change in social situations, 18 points. It doesn't matter whether you're going to community college or you're going away to school. Your social activities and situations is changing greatly. I threw this last one in, a major change in sleeping habits. It's not a misnomer. College brings on a whole different routine, different sleep hygiene, and I believe Terry Nakugar is going to talk a little bit about self-care when I'm done. 16 points for that. So the Holmes Rating Stress Inventory reminds us that even though you're about to embark on something wonderful that you've been preparing for, really, since you've been a very young child, I'm sure your families have all encouraged how important a college education is. We are still looking at college under the blanket, under the veil of COVID. Not only were you prepared for all these life changes, we now have to prepare for college in union with COVID. I thought Dr. Maddie and did such a fantastic job talking about the fact that college professors are going back to school. This is no joke. We have our college professors going back to school in order to prepare at the highest level how to make this transition and how to make it be a positive, wonderful, appropriate experience for everyone. You heard from our speaker just before me, the student who just completed her first year, the wonderful opportunities and how adjustments were being made. We're all learning. And if you look at college campuses, academia has proven that resilience and growing knowledge teaches us that you have to be flexible. That's what it's all about. So by really nurturing that part of us and finding the balance, that's where that's your springboard into adulthood. So now I'm going to turn over to the floor over to Terry Nakugar, one of my colleagues at the Macomb Intermediate School District, to talk about the importance of self-care. Because whether we're dealing with some of that distress or that eustress, self-care is critical to all of us, whether we're the teacher, whether we're the college professor, or whether we're the college student. It's a very important time for all of us. So Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Renee, and thank you, Dr. Sue and CAPA, for allowing me to present this evening. As they had indicated earlier, my name is Terry Nakugar. I recently joined the MISD back in the winter after a long career at Macomb County Community Mental Health. And now I'm at the ISD helping to implement and create new behavioral health programs for our local school districts as we go forward. So I think the timing with everything going on with COVID right now, it's probably much needed, and I'm really excited about that. But as Renee said, for tonight, I'm here to talk about self-care and the importance that it plays in all of our lives. For a long time, I think self-care has kind of gotten a bad rap. It's if someone says, oh, I need to take care of myself, I need to make sure I get my me time in. Some people, I think, in the past have kind of looked at it and thought you were being selfish, or you were kind of slacking off on some of your other requirements. And there's been a lot of studies and a lot of push out there to really get people to understand that self-care is so very important. And we have to look at our mental health as being equal to our physical health. If we are not feeling fine physically, oftentimes we are not feeling fine mentally. And it's also the reverse. If we're struggling mentally, then we will start to see signs and symptoms on our physical side. So the two really go hand in hand, and it's very important that we pay as much attention to our self-care, our mental health, as we do to our physical health. Now, it should be such an exciting time in all of your lives to be going off to college or finishing high school if you're staying at home, to go to a community college. In normal times, there is a lot of anxiousness around that. There's a lot of excitement, but a lot of anxiousness as well. You had, as Renee had talked about, you've spent a lifetime in school with mostly the same set of friends. and the same groups that you participated in, and you knew all the rules of the game and all of the players. And now you're kind of all going in different directions, and you're kind of that new fish in the pond again, and have to find your way and establish a new you and how you fit into your new environment. And that can be very challenging and overwhelming. And so it's really important that you take the time to every day check in with yourself just to see how you're doing, how you're feeling. Some of the things that you can do that's very important is as you get settled into school, whether it's a community college or you've gone away, is to find out what's happening on campus, find out what things are available. And with COVID, obviously, some of those things are going to look a little different than they have in the past. But it's all going to be brand new to you, so you're not going to necessarily miss the old way of things being done because you didn't participate in that, so you don't really know what that was like. You're going to only be exposed to the way things are when you arrive, and so it's going to be important that you find out what's happening on campus and get yourself involved in campus activities that you find of interest to yourself. You need to establish a routine, including, as Renee had mentioned, sleep hygiene is incredibly important, and it's very easy to let that part slide. It's very important to get established in a regular sleep routine. Your time is also much less structured when you get to college. You know, when you're in high school, you're up very early in the morning and you are off to class, and you're at school from anywhere from 6:45, 7 o'clock, depending on when your school started, to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 2 o'clock, depending on when you ended. If you have after school activities, then you're there for a couple of hours more, and your day is very regulated. And when you get home, you've got parents kind of regulating what happens to the rest of your time. When you get to college, there's going to be a lot of chatter about, oh, don't take classes on Friday, and oh my gosh, I never take a class before 10. You need to do what's best for you. If you are a morning person, then keep your classes scheduled in the morning. Try to stick to things that have always been comfort to you and where you know in the past that you have succeeded. You have to establish eating healthy, making sure that you're eating balanced meals, not skipping meals because you're trying to cram for a test that you maybe should have studied a little bit harder for all along. And so you're just going to now kind of take the night and not worry about eating and push through. But establishing those healthy eating habits are very, very important to maintaining good mental health as well. One of the other things is to watch out for the all or nothing type of thinking. For example, maybe you got a bad grade on a test. Well, that doesn't mean that the whole semester is lost, that you're going to do terrible in that class, and you start this whole cycle of self-doubt. It was one test, and you have to learn to kind of set it aside and learn from that. What caused that test to be difficult? Maybe you need to do a study group, or just maybe you didn't quite spend enough time to prepare. It's just a matter of looking at that one isolated incident and figuring out what you can do to go forward, but not broadband it across and going, oh my gosh, the whole class is a loss because I got one bad grade. Avoid the self-isolating. I know it's really hard, especially in the beginning, especially if you're a more quiet or shy student. It's easier to just kind of want to stay in your room and hope the activities will find you. But it just really doesn't work that way. You've got to make yourself kind of get out there and meet people and figure out, what life can offer you on campus. Mindfulness is really your mental health superpower. It can do great things if you practice mindfulness and get into the routine of practicing mindfulness. You want to tune in to what you are really sensing and feeling and thinking as it occurs in the present, without giving any judgments of good or bad to it. It's really a 3-step process. It's the 3 A's. You can always remember that when it comes to mindfulness, is being aware, attentive, and acceptance. So you just give yourself some time, whether it's through meditation or just some quiet time to process. Just become very aware internally how you're feeling. Give it some attention. Recognize that maybe you're feeling a little anxious and process through that. And then just try to accept that it's a moment in time, and you can kind of process that and package it aside and move on. So kind of to recap just some of the really simple basic things. These may sound really simplistic, but I promise you they're very, very important, and they will lead to some great success for you. It's eating well, trying to establish a routine of exercise, making sure you have an outlet, whether it's a group of friends or a friend that you can connect with and that you're feeling connected to. Build a support system. Make a plan, have a plan in place for when you are maybe feeling a little bit low. You know immediately who you can reach out to. Think positively. Again, do some mindfulness, some meditation. Some people find aromatherapy is incredibly helpful. The scents of lavender and lemon and jasmine, just so you're aware, is a great reduction for stress and anxiety. So if you're into aromatherapy or just have these scents around, they are very helpful. Journaling is another excellent way to kind of process where you are. It's always very good to be able to write out your thoughts and feelings and then just kind of tuck them away. And if the stress gets too high, please, please understand that it is okay to reach out for help, and that's what we want you to do. As it was stated earlier, all of your college campuses, whether it's a community college or a university where you're staying on campus, have counseling services, have advisors, have programs that you can reach out to and get that help and support. And if you don't want to do it through that way, reach out to a family member, reach out to a friend, but make sure you reach out to someone. Don't let it get too far where you then are just so deep into it where you just are feeling so hopeless. When you're starting to feel that anxiousness coming up and you're not able to process it with a lot of the basic things that we just talked about, please make sure you reach out to someone. And just a reminder that good mental health leads to good physical health. And so that's all I have. Thank you again for allowing me to present, and I can answer any questions at the end.
All right. The next piece is Renee Ragona popping back in. You see that we have this circle, and it says stages of psychosocial development. This is brought to you by the wonderful Dr. Eric Erickson, Psychology 101. If any of you had it in high school, I'm sure many of you will be taking psychology as you move into college. He was an ego psychiatrist, fascinating gentleman, and he talks about the stages of psychosocial development. We're social animals. We're all about being social. So this is an important part, I feel, of what college is all about and what the bridge to adulthood is all about. So when Terry and I were speaking, I really about, what's important? What's an important message that I wish somebody would have talked to me about as I embarked on my college career. I hate to say back in 1984. I really feel this is an important piece. So indulge me for a minute or two. Eric Erickson talked about the 8 stages from birth all the way to the very end of our life. And he broke it up not only by age, but by levels of development. And it really fits beautifully with the westernized standard of education. And that's really cool because we are a product of our educational systems, and how lucky we are that we have our educational systems. We fight very hard to be educated, and so many people in our world don't have that. So here you are, you're finishing that very large leg of your formal education, your high school graduates. Now you're moving on to college, which is amazing. So in this whole circle here, you're finishing up that piece of identity versus role confusion. And that stage, which is stage 5, is your adolescence, and it goes from age 12 to about age 18. And during that time, you're really working on your personal identity. It may not feel it to yourself, but it sure did feel it to your parents as you push through and tried to gain independence and your sense of self and your need for control. Even though maybe you weren't always ready for that independence and control, you were testing the waters and you were pushing and pulling between needing your parents but needing more control and independence. You were developing your personal beliefs, ideals, and values, but you were doing it with the safety net, your family and your close-knit community, your extended family, your teachers, your classmates that you had known maybe for years. Around age 18, it's no surprise that you're now ready to move out into the larger world, larger community, and that's why college takes place. And so we go into young adulthood, stage 6, which is ages 19 all the way to 40. So it's really cool that you share this next step, which is young adulthood, with so many, because the goal of this next stage, stage 6, is no longer the age of adolescence, which is known as identity versus role confusion. You're now moving to a young adulthood, which is intimacy versus isolation. It's really a wonderful time, and it's a long chunk of your life, because it doesn't come overnight. It doesn't come quickly. It really takes a long time and a lot of different experiences and a lot of different opportunities. And I look at everything as opportunities. In stage 6, it's all about exploring personal relationships. And I don't just mean intimate relationships, but exploring personal relationships at a new and exciting level as an adult. So now you are doing it without that immediate sheltering and of your parents. They're still there. They're still rooting you on. Your extended family are still there rooting you on. But now that safety net is a little farther back, and you're doing it with new knowledge and new opportunities, and you're on a college campus, and you're doing it with a new group of people, new opportunities to meet people, some that have different values and beliefs, some that have much different ideas. And you're learning how your core beliefs intermingle in a greater community. And that's really exciting. And really the purpose now, the new normal, is determining your relationships and how your core beliefs intermingle in this larger world, and to find those people that you share this greater understanding with, and you form those more intimate relationships, whether they're friendships, romantic relationships. It's just your network, your social network becomes more meaningful. If you were to talk to people, myself, college professors, your parents, your teachers from high school, how many of you are, met people that you're still in contact with from high school? There'd be a fair number that they'd say yes. But then you ask them, how many are you still in contact with from college? So many would still say, oh my goodness, yes, my friends from fraternities, sororities, colleagues. College opens up this entire new network of people. It's on a grand scale of opportunities. So really, Erik Erikson taught us and showed us that the psychosocial development is really giving us this wonderful idea to look to, that it's all about relationships. The knowledge and the career path is important. Do not get me wrong. I'm not underestimating the importance of the activities and the learning. Those are going to, the things that you're going to take away from the classroom are immeasurable. But it's those relationships and how you learn to mold and to really define yourself and who you are and how you fit into those relationships is really what takes you on to your adult life at different levels. So that's the exciting part from a mental health point of view, and how you do that with good self-care, looking out for yourself and keeping that balance. That is really the challenge. You've come this far. It's an exciting time. I congratulate each and every one of you. We attached 3 additional slides that you will see that there are resources there that talk about self-care. Talk about self-care as a college student with COVID. Talk about all kinds of different opportunities to maintain that balance. Please check out those resources. As far as mental health support, I want to encourage you to go on your college website. Each college will have either a mental health clinic as part of their medical health provider on campus. If it's a large campus, typically they will have a health center that has a mental health component. And there are always resources available to any student on a campus if they are in need of mental health support. There are a host of different websites, and we put some of them on here. And if you need other ones, please reach out to us that we can get you some 1-800 numbers for assistance to help you deal with any mental health issues or crises. And there's always a 1-800 number if in any way anyone is experiencing a mental health crisis and needs immediate attention. Do not ever hesitate to reach out. I want to thank you again. It's been a pleasure for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee and Terry, for such a wonderful information. And I know that this slides will, the PowerPoint will be available, so that way you can get the websites and all the resources. Now I'm going to turn this over to Joe again for the next part.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Sue, and all of our panelists here. So I've been collecting a lot of your questions, so I'm going to get to that in just a bit while I mute everyone here. But just reminding you guys, for those students and parents here, our raffle will be right after this. Can I see, let's see here. Students, if you want to raise your hand, just so I know that you're here, please raise your hand. Let's see if this works. Okay. Or if you're a parent of a student as well, you can raise your hand so I can get our raffle going. I know Betsy, let's see, Amin, I've not heard from you, Amin. If you're a student, please raise your hand, or a parent of a student. Hitanshu says they don't want to be part of the raffle. So Caitlin and Pantari, I think you guys are students. Amin, please raise your hand if, okay, I mean, it's okay. I see your message there, so don't worry about it. So Amin is also one of the students. I'm lowering everyone's hands right now. Please raise your hand if you've been here for more than one of the 3 sessions. Okay, that's good. So my calculations are correct. So Caitlin and Pantari are both students. Okay. So our questions are as follows. So if any of the moderators or panelists would like to answer one of the questions, just make sure to unmute yourself because I just muted everybody. So our first question is coming from, oh, Betsy's question was already answered. So let's go to Elizabeth's question. Mr. Richard, I am a high school student. If school is a hybrid of in-person and online classes, how do I get the most of limited in-person contact with my teachers? And what if I want to get a recommendation letter from my teacher? How do I make any kind of positive impression when I only see them once or twice a week? Richard?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the question, Elizabeth. Oh, is that an echo? Okay, we're good. Yeah, I think it would work the same way as if you're in school. So, you know, one of the things that stands out, I think, from a teacher, or at least from my perspective, are the students that make connections to either other events in the past or it's something that's going on today. And so they take what we're studying, and it's not something they learn. You know, they're learning just to pass a test and, you know, kind of forget about it. But, you know, they're internalizing it, thinking about it, and those are the kids that either come early and want to talk about things, or during the class, or stay after class, or all 3. those are the kids that kind of stand out. And so there's a lot of students that do well in class and, you know, can do the homework sufficiently and pass the test. But the ones that I think, you know, teachers tend to make a connection with are the ones that ask the questions and make those connections. And, you know, just as a teacher, I think you tend to appreciate that. So online, you know, if it's a blended learning environment or if it's online even, you know, I've had students, even this last quarter, still email me about, you know, something they read about it in the news that reminded them of something we talked about. And it's you know, it's obviously you can't have a lengthy discussion, but it's just, you know, I appreciate that that connection they're making and just bringing it up to me and that they took the time to share that with me. I really do appreciate it. I think a lot of teachers do. You know, my colleagues for sure. We, you know, those are the kind of things that we talk about. So when it comes, you know, time to write recommendations, those are the ones that are easier to write about because you do have some kind of connection beyond the standard classroom performance.
Okay, thank you very much, Richard. I hope that answered your question, Elizabeth. Here we have another question. Dr. Maddie did a great job representing a big college, a big state school. What if someone in the audience wants a smaller environment or a more personalized instruction? Can someone answer that question?
Well, just a little bit.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, Panita, you go ahead and I'll chime in after you.
Oh, all I was going to say is if you wanted a more personalized or a smaller group of students, if you just email the professor and just ask like, hey, I'm having trouble with this, they will set aside a time or during their office hours to help you during that. Or some universities do offer honors classes, which do have a limit on how many number of students are in each class.
Can I just ask whoever that was, just for a bit of clarification on the question, is this sort of a question about attending a larger university and how to find smaller sort of environments in a larger university, or is this more you're interested in attending sort of a smaller liberal arts type institution?
I think the question was more like other than a big state school, maybe a smaller private institution or even the community college, if anyone can speak to that. What are their advantages, or what should you look for when you're looking for different kinds of schools?
So I can speak to that just a little bit. So interestingly enough, I actually, as an undergraduate student, did not attend an institution that looked anything like Michigan State. I went to a small liberal arts college called Furman University in South Carolina that was 2,700 students in the entire college. And obviously I'm a professor at somewhere that's very, very different than that, but I've been looped in with some of what is going on at Furman. And it's interesting, I think a lot of the smaller private institutions are actually in a really great position to be able to pivot during this situation, just because they're smaller and they can make decisions a lot more easily in terms of how they're going to act and react in this particular situation. I'm happy, I don't know who it was who asked that question, but I'm happy to have another sort of side conversation if this person wants to email me and reach out. I can put my email address in the chat, but I'd be happy to have a separate conversation about thinking about the pros and cons of a small private institution versus a larger state institution, because there are definitely pros and cons to both.
Thank you very much, Maddie. Before I get to, does anyone else have any other questions? I have one more left here. As I check in the chat room, let me ask all the students and the parents once again to raise your hand if you've been, let's see here, those students or parents that have been to 2 or more webinars, please raise your hand. Okay, and how about if you've been here, let me lower everyone's hand. For those that have been here for 3, all 3 of them, please raise your hand. Okay, so this takes us to our last question. This is from Chloe. She says, what mental health resources do they provide students at college, and how can students avail of those resources? This is very pertinent, especially since I know everyone's mental health is straining because of the COVID-19 pandemic and all the things that we're doing. Is there anyone that would like to chime in on that?
Hi, so this is Terry Kugar. I can chime in. My first suggestion would be, before you even arrive on campus, is to go on to your university's website, and pretty much all of the universities will have information regarding their mental health services and what's available. Oftentimes they will have psychologists or therapists or counselors or social workers available to meet with you. Oftentimes they may have group sessions. They also have doctors on staff, usually in their medical clinics as well. So the best thing to do is, before you even get there, look up, see what's available. And once you get to school, take a walk around, figure out where it is on campus. And then once you get there, they usually will have a lot of flyers and information out about what's available, or upcoming support groups and things like that that they may have available.
Okay, thank you very much. Maddie says here, for MSU support for mental health in the chat room, she put a link up there. So of course, what's being shown in the chat room will be on the recording when we upload these webinars, so you can check them out there. So right now we are going to our raffle portion here. So let me share with you guys our screen. There we go. Can everybody see the screen with our wheel of names? So I put all the students in, and as we mentioned throughout all three of our webinars, for each webinar that you attended, you get an extra chance in the raffle, and we have a special raffle at the end for those that attended all three of our webinars. So here is our first winner. We're going to spin this. So we have, how many do we have? Correct me, let me just scroll back here really quickly. We have 4 $50 gift cards for those in attendance today. So here is our first winner. Claire, if you can write these down or take note, that would be wonderful. Luna. Congratulations, Luna. You have won one of the 4 gift cards, so I'm removing you from the list right now. And here we go with our next winner. Betsy. Congratulations, Betsy. We got 2 more. Let me just check back in the chat if anyone has said anything. Okay, I think we're okay. Let's go on. We have 2 more to give away. Our next winner is Aston Flores. Congratulations again. So that was number 3. And here we go with our 4th and final one for the general raffle. Good luck, everybody. And Thanapa, you are our 4th winner. And we had also a special prize for those that went to all 3. And it looks like Chloe Schultz is the only person here that went to all 3. So Chloe, you get that extra $50 gift card as well. So we had 5 winners today. Congratulations, everybody. And for those in the chat room, so if you are a winner, make sure if you weren't one of the ones that registered online, send me your name and your email so that we can make sure that these gift cards get to you. So with that, I want to say thank you to all of our panelists that spoke today, as well as our moderators for today's webinar, as well as our past 2 webinars. It's been a wonderful run, 3 great webinars to prepare you for college amidst the COVID-19 crisis. Thank you very much to Madonna University for partnering with Michigan's Council of Asian Pacific Americans, CAPA, for this wonderful and informative series. For those students and parents out there, just a reminder, if you missed any of the webinars, we will be uploading them to our CAPA website. It'll be next month already, since it's already the end of the month. So you can check those out and share them with any friends or family that have students that are preparing for college, because it's a great resource, especially since there are a lot of things up in the air when it comes to this fall and how schools are going to be accommodating students despite the coronavirus. So thank you to all the presenters, and thank you to everyone. A special thank you to all the CAPA board members that work behind the scenes to make this happen, our Mosaic scholars, and everyone in the IT department over there at Madonna University. Thank you very much. And I guess for those of you that have not followed CAPA on our Facebook, look up CAPA Michigan, and our website is www.capa-mi.org, kappa-mi.org, and we'll have more information about how you can actually view these webinars again. And we are featuring graduating students on our social media. So if you are graduating and you would like your accomplishments featured there, send us a message also on Facebook, and we'll get you in our newsletter as well as on Facebook. So with that, we'll see you at our next CAPA event. And thank you, everyone. Enjoy the summer. Stay safe and healthy. And we'll see you when we see you. Take care.